It's finally 6:30. Call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Are there any additions to the agenda? Board? No? Okay, I have no remarks. Open public comment for items not on the agenda? No? Okay, minute approval.
Madam Chair, I request that we approve the minutes of the, that was not a regular, that was a special select board meeting
Yeah.
on Wednesday, October 17th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Abstain.
Tom?
Abstain.
Jane?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Motion carries. Okay. Regular meetings of September 20th.
Madam Chair, I move they be approved as printed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jean?
Abstain.
Malcolm and I. Motion carries. Okay, warrant.
All right. I move that we approve payment of the following warrant. 7T accounts payable, $1,713,992.40, which includes the first installment of our school tax. 38S, $8,939.25, and 39S, $12,969.80.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Motion carries. Town admin report.
Very brief report. I spoke with the treasurer, who deposited the opioid settlement funds into an account. So that's going to work out for residents who are seeking treatment and can't afford their co-pays. And I did reach out to the local facilities to make them aware of the funds. And so far, I spoke to 2 people directly and 1 person who's going to get back to me.
Okay.
The report on the salary and wage survey will be completed within the next 2 weeks. As soon as that's completed, I will schedule a presentation to have them come and speak to the board.
They're doing job descriptions too?
They looked at the job descriptions.
Okay.
I've received 1 proposal for the outdoor recreation master plan, and that's been forwarded to the planning commission for review. Arrangements have been made to hold the next select board meeting on October 18th at the school cafeteria. And this has already been posted on the town website, just to let folks know as soon as possible. And I have a few staff members on the Personnel Policy Committee. I've contacted VLCT for guidance on this, and we'll be starting the process next week. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. New business, Vermont Yankee update. Maddie?
Okay, so last week there was an article in the Brattleboro Reformer, and it's been a while since I showed up here to talk to you about Vermont Yankee, and I thought that it might be a good time to just go over some really pertinent details. I was also contacted by a member of the press for a comment, and I don't like to comment personally. I'd like to feel as if, you know, there's a consensus with townspeople. So I wanted to wait until after I spoke with you and see if you guys are all on the same page as I am. So basically, The VY decommissioning is on schedule and on budget for completion by 2030 per the MOU that the state of Vermont guaranteed and agreed to. And the current estimates by North Star, they expect to have it completed by 2030, but they may actually, if they meet certain standards, have a partial site release before 2030. So that's what we're looking at as far as redevelopment. The inspections of the work by the NRC inspectors and state officials are ongoing, and they assure the safety of the workers, the work being done, the environment, and the community at large. So that's very, very reassuring. To date, there have been no lost time accidents or injuries on the job site. The deconstruction of the reactor vessel is complete, which is pretty significant. All low-level waste material retrieved from this unit will be and is being shipped to waste control specialists in Texas. And that's per our compact for disposal. There's one final dry storage cask, actually it's number 59, and it's being loaded with the remaining greater than Class C material retrieved from the reactor vessel and will be moved to the IFSC, which is the Independent Spent Fuel Storage Installation, very soon. Greater than Class C waste, and this is something that kind of gets misunderstood. That waste is still technically low-level waste. But it has to stay on site along with the rest of the spent nuclear fuel until a repository or a consolidated interim storage facility is approved by the federal government. They haven't found one yet. That's still up for discussion. Much like the spent nuclear fuel, there is currently no authorized location to dispose of the greater than Class C waste. So that's basically the picture of what it looks like now. And I feel fairly confident with the job that's being done. And having sat in on, the NDCAP meetings and the Spent Nuclear Fuel Policy Committee, there's a lot of work being done trying to get consensus and, agreement about how to continue pursuing an actual repository or, an interim storage facility. There's a lot of argument about that too, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys were all up to date with it, and I don't know if you have any questions.
Are they discussing at all Finland's idea for storage?
Here?
Yeah, would our country be involved with theirs? They're boring very deep in the earth.
They do have a deep repository type of technology that they've investigated, but generally that is before the fuel is removed from the fuel pool. In other words, they have sites where they can do that, but we've already put our fuel in casks, so that'd be kind of a redundant. And and there are some people that are suggesting that we move the fuel to the top of the mountain, to get it away from the river, which might flood, but somehow I don't think that that's going to be an issue in our lifetime or maybe even our kids' lifetimes. I think it's pretty secure where it is.
Michael?
Jeff?
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you very much, Maddie.
thanks. Have a good night.
All right,
too.
good to see you.
National Grid.
Who's here, ladies?
I will come up here. Good evening.
Good evening.
Stephanie over here, my colleague, has some printouts of the presentation that we'll have for the project.
Thank you.
Just easier, you can write your notes on it.
She's something scribbled. Thank you.
So thank you for your time tonight. My name is Danielle Aretz. I work for National Grid, and I am the lead stakeholder specialist for the A1B2 ACR project. ACR stands for Asset Condition Refurbishment. It's a mouthful. So to give you a little bit of background, sorry, let me just give Stephanie a moment to kind of pop that up so anyone on Zoom can see. All right. So, to recap, that was, we are talking about the A1B2 ACR project. ACR, again, Asset Condition Refurbishment. So the next slide, Stephanie, will go over our agenda. So a quick project overview so that you understand the need and the scope of work that we are proposing. Structure comparison, project schedule, and then contact information for the project. So this is currently where that transmission line, the A1 and B2, are located in Vernon, Vermont. What we are proposing is to actually rebuild this line, these two lines. They were originally built in 1909. Those structures were replaced in the early 1920s. So we're talking over 100 years, if you think about it. So that's where the asset condition and refurbishment comes into play. So these lines begin in the north at the Vernon Switchyard near Governor Hunt Road. They cross the Connecticut River into Hinsdale, New Hampshire. Then they cross the Connecticut River again into Vernon, where it runs approximately 2.5 miles, crossing the river back into New Hampshire and eventually ending up in Massachusetts. So these lines are part of the New England transmission system. They supply power to multiple substations, which then would distribute it to the towns. And also some of the Green Mountain Power feeders from the Vernon station as well. So this feeds pretty much a good significant portion of the region up here, kind of in the Vernon, Hinsdale, and then throughout Massachusetts. So we can go to the next slide. So in Vernon specifically, it's 2.5 miles. And then it would continue once we leave Vernon. There's another approximately 47 miles of transmission lines that we'll be working on throughout small portion of New Hampshire and then in through Massachusetts. Like I said before, they were originally installed in 1909. Their age requires replacement, and the proposal for this project is to build these new lines to 115 kV standards. However, they will operate at the same voltage that they are now, which is 69 kV. And by building them to the 115 kV standard, what we're doing is we're allowing for as more renewables, or as the system might need to be upgraded to provide more capacity. It's already done. It's already there. We don't have to then come back in 5 or 10 years and rebuild again to those 115 kV standards. So the scope of this would be to, again, rebuild these two lines, the A1 and the B2. improve the access to those lines as necessary and where necessary. Not all of the accesses might mean to be rebuilt. And then also to perform associated vegetation removal or vegetation management for construction, and then to also, again, protect those lines from what we call danger trees, which is, anything that could kind of come into contact with the wires of the transmission system. 34 of the 37 existing structures will be replaced. And then there would be a net reduction of 3 structures in Vernon, Vermont.
So are all those 37 in Vernon?
Yeah. So because you have those two separate transmission lines,
Okay.
so they are. I have a picture moving forward that kind of explains it a little bit better. Again, that existing right-of-way is generally about 120 or 150 feet wide. Currently, they're cleared at an average of about 85 feet of that right-of-way is cleared. So if we are doing any tree removals, those would be within the existing right-of-way.
Would this have any impact on farmland or cropland?
Not that I'm aware of.
In other words, what's currently used for cropland within the right-of-way, you aren't necessarily going to say, well, you can't plant.
So if there's going to be any kind of an anticipated effect like that to a property owner, whether it be a farmer, we would be doing individual outreach for that, and we would be talking to them and really plan around so that we are as least impactful as we could possibly be. Again, I don't want to say no impact, because there's always impact when you're doing construction, but we would work with those people on an individual basis.
So currently, as far as trees or any other vegetation, it's cleared to, what would you say, 85 feet?
Currently, the average is 85 feet is cleared.
Yep.
We might be clearing to
150.
100, possibly the full width. But again, we would be working with those individual properties on a one-to-one basis. Next slide, Stephanie. So this will give you a better indication of what the right-of-way looks like right now, which is that old lattice structure that you see. And then over on the other side of the slide, you see that tall monopole structure. It's called a monopole. That we don't have a picture of that in Vermont. We just don't have those structures in Vermont yet. So this is the best example that we could get, and that's that our engineering department provided, so that you can see the difference between what's out there currently and what would be out there after construction.
So the structure looks narrower, but you need more space?
So the structure is narrower but taller, and then what we would be doing, the reason that you have to do some vegetation removal is for the actual construction, to get the equipment in there, and to set up what we call like construction pads or work pads around where you're going to be building.
So this might be kind of an unrelated question, or maybe not within your forte, but rather than constructing above ground, what is the negative aspects of trying to put below ground lines?
Oh, I don't have to ask that. Thank you, Mr. Dunkley.
The difference between constructing overhead versus underground and transmission, there's quite a lot.
I'm sure
Sorry.
there's a substantial price difference.
There is
cost
a
difference.
massively substantial price difference, one. Number two, it's not you're not just burying the wire, you have to actually build underground infrastructure. So that would have to be, whether it's, I have underground projects in cities. That's a duct bank, that's manholes. Manholes are roughly the size of a school bus that have to go underground for all of that. And you also have transition structures, so from where it comes out from the substation, you would have to have those transition structures to go into the underground infrastructure. And it's not really often, and I think one of my engineers is on the call, but it's not really something that's done like in where you have a right of way like this. You're gonna do overhead. Underground is usually done in urban areas, just because there's no space to go overhead.
It would seem, though, that as storms get worse and more frequent, regardless, and I'm sure they're built very toughly, I don't question that, but it would seem to be the right time to invest in going underground with utilities, looking to the future as to what may occur, as opposed to building above ground again. But
It only get more expensive as time goes
that's
by.
my
to do that.
point. And I mean, you got to do directional drills under the Connecticut River twice, and that, you know, that type of stuff gets really expensive. But it's just something that all of the utility companies really got to get out of the 1980s with their technology and get into.
Well, I mean, you consider like, you know, in urban areas, New York City, Boston, that the subways were developed after the Great Blizzard of 1888, that, you know, all the above ground trains and whatever, that, yeah, it was an enormous civil engineering project, to say the least, and very expensive, but the flip side again with storms is, you know, even considering like Florida, yeah, it's expensive nowadays, but, you know, what is the cost of people going without power? So.
I have two other questions. Okay. It sounded like the environmentalist tonight. I'm really good. This is so. Your vegetation management along the right-of-way, will it be sprayed? Will it be selectively cut? What are you spraying with, and who's going to be notified of that? And what's the drift?
Sure. Teresa, I have our environmental consultant on the call, I think Teresa Portante.
Yes, I'm here. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Teresa. Did you hear that question? It was more
about
some of it was on the vegetation management, how we would be, if we're spraying, if we're selectively removing.
To support the construction of the line, there wouldn't be any spraying conducted. So there'd be mowing and then selective tree removals and pruning to expand the cleared width as discussed to that 100 feet.
On that, what are you doing with the waste?
So, Teresa, the question was, what do we do with the waste or the cuttings?
Sure. So depending upon resource area and landowner coordination, there's certain spots where it might be chipped and left, other spots where it might be removed, but that is also something in select locations on landowner properties that would be coordinated with them as well.
A lot of times people will ask us to leave the wood on the side of the right of way, and we're not going to cut it into little tiny fireplace logs, but we'll leave it piled up for them to then use it at their, take at their will on their property.
I just know a lot of the places where your lines are trails and stuff, and I don't want to just go out these trails and see a pile of crap everywhere.
Our vegetation
I have one other question.
vegetation management group is pretty good.
Yeah, one other concern I have is when power companies come in and trim branches on trees that are getting into their right-of-way space. they don't do anything to protect the tree. And I'm not, they don't do anything to protect the tree after they cut. And the trees bleed out, basically, and over a period of 5 to 10 years, they die. So you cut the branch off, but you don't do anything to help it stop bleeding, for lack of a better term.
They're gonna take the whole tree out.
Yeah.
It's not the same as a Green Mountain Power.
I don't know,
So it's a little different on the distribution power side versus the transmission side. I know that, you know, people have had concerns and have shown me, you know, for distribution, so the power that comes to your house, your business, and, you know, if there are trees cut, especially after a storm or for a big maintenance project on those lines. For the on the transmission side, we usually have to take almost the whole tree.
I'd rather have you take them out, that's.
We, you know, I know, I can say for the forestry guys that I work with, we take that approach where we look at it and we go, if we can trim it and it'll be okay, we can trim it. If we're gonna trim it and it's gonna look like a matchstick, you know, and we talk to the property owner, we can, you know, again, we would be able to say,
Yeah,
it's better if we take the whole tree.
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So, I'm sorry, back to this slide. So, on average right now, those old structures are about 52 to 61 feet in height above ground. The new structures range from approximately 90 to 121 feet. That 121 foot structure would be at the river crossing. That's where it has to be the highest. But on average, it's going to be between 90 and 100 feet for those new structures. And just to explain why they have to be so tall is we're actually building them, the existing structure, we're building them in the same place. So we have to have certain clearances in order for the crews to work safely, as well as get the machinery in to do that placement. And then once the new line is built and it's placed in service, we come back and we remove the old structures. Next slide.
What's the timetable on the removal?
The timetable on the removal would be once we are complete and the line is done, so that would be, I believe, 2028.
Okay.
It's the transmission world, takes a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is just to go over some of the permitting process, which I would assume that some of you or all of you might be familiar with, but this project had to go to the Vermont PUC, who will review the project to ensure that it complies with all of their requirements, including that it is also in the best interest and that it's cost effective. There's plenty of opportunity through the PUC for residents or towns to be involved in that public process through either the hearings or public comment sessions. So that we are anticipating to file with the Vermont PUC either in November or I believe early December, but really the target is for us to file in November. And then the next kind of set of permits would be the environmental permitting. And that's everything, we're anticipating for that somewhere in 2023. So that would be with the Army Corps of Engineers, wetland permits, threatened and endangered species, stormwater discharge, and as we get more involved in this, the permitting list will probably grow because everything needs a permit. So, but all of those again, that information will be available as it's public public process. And we're hoping to be complete with the environmental permitting by the end of 2023, I believe.
So another question.
Sure.
So with the completion of this project, you're gonna get another 100 years out of it?
If,
I'm not gonna hold you to it. None of us are gonna be here.
I was
I'm
gonna
just
say,
curious.
for yourself.
I don't know if I'll be here, but, you know,
I hope I will.
I'll say in my experience with transmission lines, you know, the engineering, the construction, and the reliability of these lines is outstanding. I won't speak for distribution, or any other infrastructure that I'm not, you know, tied into, but, especially when you're doing this forward thinking of saying, let's build it to the 115
Right.
kV standards, even though we're gonna operate it at 69 kV. I mean, that's that forward thinking of, you know, we don't wanna come back out here. These are not, quick projects, these are not easy projects, you know, let's do it so that we're prepared for the future growth. And obviously, replacing 100-something-year-old structures.
Yeah, well, I mean, that kind of, again, goes back to my question about underground construction.
Yep.
Yeah, again, to me, if you want to replace something for 100 years, the initial cost, obviously, for underground construction is a great deal, but, you know, you deal with right-of-way issues, but if it can be done in an urban area, I'm sure it's much more costly in an urban area than it would be in a rural area. But again, I would, I mean, I appreciate you coming here, and don't get me wrong, I'm not being difficult to work with. I really think that future construction of lines should be, underground should be a consideration. Just not even aesthetic value, but you know, again, with potential climate change and more storms, I mean, and people create a reliance upon a reliable source of electricity and power. So anyways, I just want to put my 2 cents in there.
You can put a whole nickel in.
Okay. Inflation, I know.
Yeah. No, it's a valid point. One of the big things that, you know, as a utility company that we are kept at or required to do is to obviously maintain a reliable system at the lowest cost for the ratepayers or our customers. So that's where sometimes that money factor does come in, because the regulators who approve these can turn around and say, you didn't pick. You know, there's an option here that's much better for the ratepayers, because it's not going to, you know, cost them an arm and a leg.
So I mean, in a sense, it's not really a private enterprise. I mean, you got lots of other people to answer to.
Yes.
Again, where if it was, you know, just a private, you know, do what you think is best return on investment for the long term, you might consider other alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like, you know, that's where this whole, you know, these permitting processes come in, where, you know, the PUC in Massachusetts, it's the, you know, Energy Facility Sightings Board, or the Department of Public Works. Then you have ISO New England, who also,
Yeah.
you know,
When you talk to the
watches.
PUC, ask them where Vernon is. They don't know.
It's okay. I get it. If I ever told you where I grew up,
Yeah.
everybody would be like, where is that?
I've met people on that commission, and they don't know where Vernon is.
Well, I do now.
Yes?
This is the third time I've been to Vernon, so, actually, my best friend grew up around this area, so,
nice.
she was very excited when I told her I was coming here.
And she knew where you were coming.
What?
And she knew.
She
where
knew,
Vernon is,
she
yeah.
was like, wait a minute, I know. And
Yeah.
So I told her, I was like, no, it's great. So again, this, oh, sorry, Stephanie, next slide. So this is our anticipated project schedule. Again, dates are subject to change just due to, again, the permitting process, if things go quickly or if things kind of get stuck in the middle. But stakeholder outreach has been ongoing since the fall of 2020, mostly through mailings. Abutters have received different mailings letting them know about if we're doing any kind of survey work in the right of way, if we've been doing any staking. The project also launched a website with a hotline and an email, so that was also mailed out via postcards to all of the abutters. We did start field assessments this summer, summer 2020, and again, flagging land surveys, access reviews, cultural resources, soil borings, all of this stuff that helps us finalize the engineering for the project. Vegetation management, a little bit was done prior to the soil borings just so they could get into where they were taking them. And then we will start actually doing more comprehensive vegetation management prior to construction. And again, prior to that, we would be working with the residents. Permitting, again, 2020 to 2024. Construction and restoration. And I say construction and restoration because construction for most people is once they start seeing us out there in that right of way. But then there's a whole portion of restoration. So when we're done with construction, making sure that, you know, equipment and matting is removed, and, you know, if we have to plant grass or put some hay down, or if there's any kind of an environmental remediation that needs to be done, you know, if we had to put like hay barrels around a wetland or something, that we go back and we monitor that, and then we remove it when we're supposed to. So all of that is the restoration process. And we will be working very closely. Again, this is a pretty big project because you've got the Vernon part, but then you've got that New Hampshire and Massachusetts part. So we're gonna wanna make sure that people will know we're starting construction, but hey, Vernon, you're not gonna see us until, 2025. So this way, you're not getting antsy or expecting to see construction and you don't see anything, or so that'll all be timed out, and it's all kind of in an assembly line. Vegetation management, then we'll have staking, access, construction, and then restoration.
Right.
So people might see us for a few weeks, and then they might not see us for a couple months, and then for a few weeks again, and then for a couple of months, as this kind of assembly line goes down throughout the process.
So earlier on, you indicated that of the 37 structures, 3 are going to be eliminated. I assume by this point, you already know which 3 are going to disappear.
I believe it's in the engineering report, which was part of the 45-day notice. I don't know off the top of my head, though.
No, I just personally curious because I do own land with one of the structures on it. And I would volunteer mine to disappear.
We're gonna put 2 structures on your property.
Oh, 2?
Yeah, we're gonna put 2, and then maybe a little baby
Oh.
one to just
Keep my mouth shut.
So the next slide, Stephanie. So again, I just wanted to thank you. I've got, we're here, ask us questions. Please reach out to us. We do have, again, our outreach team. Stephanie works with me. Margaret also works with me on the outreach. They're here, what I call my boots on the ground. And we've got that hotline, we've got a dedicated email, and then we've also got a website. And that website will continuously be updated with more information as we're getting it, and as activities are kicking up, as well as to notify people if there are any public hearings from the PUC or anything like that. They'll receive a notice in the mail, but I like to send a nice, what I call friendly letters, to just say, hey, by the way, in the upcoming months, you'll see something that's a formal letter or a formal notice, because, like anybody, if you're not used to getting legal mail and you get this like notice, sometimes you go, So it's just my way of saying, hey, keep your eye out, you'll see something from
Yep.
a very important body, but we're just letting you know to open your mail. So if there's,
No,
again,
I'm good, thank you.
happy to answer any
Are you
questions.
gonna be buying any local supplies or subcontracting local companies to support the community?
So where possible, that would be done through the construction team and procurement, but usually we do try to use where we can. We will try to use those local vendors. Some stuff is extremely specialized, but I can bring that right back to the team. I mean, that's an
You're gonna
easy,
impact the community, should support the community.
I can tell you I'm not having dinner.
We don't have a restaurant in town.
Okay, well, it's in Brattleboro, but I'll find places to have lunch.
Jeff, any more questions?
I've asked them.
No, thank you very much.
Oh,
All
you're
set,
very
thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. And enjoy your dinner.
It's the perk of traveling.
Yeah.
I didn't have to cook dinner, I didn't have to prep it. I don't have to cook it.
Okay. Signs on town property. Were you gonna want a letter on the National Grid? Were you gonna want us to approve a letter?
Oh, the letter.
Oh, yes, so the letter, if you want to sign it, if not, you can email it back to me, you can scan it and email it back to me,
Okay,
whichever
Yeah.
works for you.
we'll do that. Thank you. I'll take it up afterwards.
I don't want to like pressure anything.
So I had 6 of them on the property.
Yeah, I'll sign.
Bring a substation on that property.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Sure.
Bye.
Signs on town property.
Okay, yes, so we had some signs from Governor Hunt House that were on town property and that came into question. Do we have a policy for what we can and can't?
Well, those aren't political signs.
We've had businesses ask to put signs on town property before, and we told them they couldn't.
Yeah,
That's why I'm just, wanna be clear who we're letting and who we're not.
So Friends of Vernon Center is a nonprofit.
So I'm just saying, if we do that, we have to let any nonprofit advertise on town property that wants to.
Well, who wanted to put a sign? Governor Hunt House wanted to put a sign up?
They put signs up, yeah.
They were the
For the
signboards
The
that,
Harvest
you know,
Festival.
get put out for, you know, taxes due, there's a bunch of signboards upstairs. But apparently got set, you know, reset to advertise the event down there, the community event. That had no fees associated with it. There was no money raised.
No, I just wanted to bring it up before something came up from somebody, because we did tell people before they couldn't, so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same board and page with it.
Well, I think I agree, we have to come to, but I think there's a difference in a one-day event than a business wanting to put up a 365 day a year advertisement. I think if there's a community event, and I understand you do for one, you gotta do for all, I get that. But we could limit that to local Vernon nonprofits. That would stop the spread.
Well, when the museum has a special, don't they put up a sign on that?
Well, I was gonna say that too, the historians also put signs
Yeah.
up on our
Yeah, mums for sale or.
Yeah.
You know, any of their events, or,
I mean, those are for sale.
And again, they will do a one-day event thing that they put a sign
Yeah.
out for.
It's
So
not
we-
political or anything.
No, that's how,
No,
So I think the best practice would be, without having to create a whole new policy, but maybe just a short paragraph instead. In the future, if folks want to advertise for a community event, they would come and ask.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing, and then at that point, you can, explain yeah or no and why.
Yeah.
Now, Friends of Vernon owns that, right? We don't own it.
The Governor Hunt House?
Right.
Right, it's the Friends of Vernon Center, the
So-
town does not own it.
So that's not on town property.
It is not a town property,
So we really have nothing to say
the town didn't want it.
about it. Right. So you can put a sign on your own property.
No, the sign was on the town's property.
Oh, it was on the town.
Yeah,
That's what we're
it's
talking
on
about.
both
Who can put
sides.
signs on the town's property, is what we're talking about.
Okay.
So I would just be sure that Tim knew that, because sometimes some of those signs are the clerk's signs that get put out, so. Just that he knows that if somebody wants a sign set, they need to get approval
Yeah,
from
but
the board.
it should be a nonprofit, and it should be for, no more than a 2-day event. I think the school, if they have a craft type fair, that may run Friday night, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday, so,
Right.
yeah, I don't think we should be, you're right to bring it up, we gotta figure that out, but,
Before we get
local organizations should be able to,
It's,
For
I
a
mean,
couple
we
of days.
have an ideal vantage point, so nobody had complained then.
No, I just,
You were
like I
just
said, I wanted
asking.
to, before somebody,
before someone.
somebody does,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Future reference, clarification.
Hassle prevention. Thank you. Okay, groundskeeping equipment purchase.
So I've been working with a custodian on, trying to find someplace local that services equipment and, present them with a list of the 5 comparable items that we need, and to see if we could get a discount if we would purchase them from the same place and all at once. And so we had Gary's Power Equipment, which sells and services everything, and they gave us a generous discount. And tried to go with Brown and Roberts, however, they no longer sell or service lawnmowers. And they're very limited.
you barely get a pickup truck in there.
And then, we also, I did have Mark go to Ron's Husqvarna, and they only sell, I think, one item, I'm not sure if it was a weed whacker,
A trimmer, yeah.
a trimmer, and I think that's it, and they can't even get in lawnmowers right now. So that's what we have, and at this point, we're gonna need to do cleanup, gonna need a leaf blower, snow blower, and all of those items, and we currently have $10,000 in I think it's the replacement and
Right.
emergency repair replacement fund for equipment purchases under $10,000. So there's $10,000 in there, and there are a couple lines in the budget, one for equipment and the other one for snow removal. We have more than enough salt to get us through at least one winter, currently stored at the schoolhouse.
I have 2 questions. Under Gary's, am I reading this right, he lists 2 snow blowers?
Yes.
I wondered about that too.
I don't know why, I think one of them was.
One's enough.
I know, that's what I said to him, because he's like, I can get you 2. Because I said to him, okay, so you can, get all these things. I said, however, you don't have the snow blower right now, and you don't have the lawnmower. If we were to make this purchase, when will we see those items? And he said he can have them all in a couple of weeks. But I said, we only need one snow blower,
Yeah.
and I think the 2 models were very similar. And I think that's why Mark said, why don't you give us both prices?
But why would you get a 21-inch?
There's old 21.
Yeah,
They're both 21.
Why?
Because
Well,
he's
just-
only doing sidewalks, I mean, you
Well-
figure the highway is plowing everything, he really doesn't have an awful lot,
It's the sidewalks.
it's the sidewalks primarily.
I don't,
So
don't
he,
know.
he doesn't need a huge industrial.
no, I'm not saying he needs a 28 or a 30, but
Oh, the price, once you go past that width, the price point.
I love mine at work. I have to go to the office after the meeting.
I don't know,
Whatever, I don't,
I'm kind of thrifty, and once you start jumping, the price jumps an awful lot, and I just can't justify it for the space that he's clearing, and he couldn't either.
Yeah,
So,
it's not that much sidewalks, but
Yeah, he's
if
not
you had to
doing-
shovel it, it would be a lot.
Now, he's not doing down Governor Hunt Road anymore, right? They stopped doing that a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't know why we were doing that, but, well, because we had a tractor with this, a lawnmower thing with the snow blower, but I think that that's beyond our.
so what's your recommendation?
I prefer to go with Gary's Power Equipment, they've accommodated us, they gave us a decent discount, and they can service everything,
I think the service is the most important thing.
they're consistent.
I mean, it's like almost good luck getting the lawnmower fixed someplace you didn't buy it.
Yeah,
Yep. I'm
Good
calling-
luck getting it fixed at someplace you did buy it.
Right, a lot of places have gotten away from the servicing
Yeah.
end of the industry, and, yeah,
and we need a 54-inch mower. You need you need a narrow snow blower and a wide
we'll get a
glider.
lot more grass in
There's
this
a
than
lot of grass out
I
there.
think the mower is like a professional lawn, we're only mowing one lawn, I don't think we need quite that big, but.
Well, I don't think that there was anything smaller.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, we were very conservative when we looked at models. I don't think that they had
Yeah,
anything
they've
smaller.
never even had a zero turn here before, they always had a regular lawnmower, riding lawnmower.
Yeah,
think
that had all the attachments that, just
Yeah.
snow stuff.
Yeah, they always had all the John Deere.
Should have bid on that.
We should have kept it.
Yeah.
Bid on that.
So what is your pleasure, board?
Definitely needs it, we could drop
So-
that other company that only just mows.
I guess you gotta figure out which snow blower you want. So professional, that's a brand then?
They're both
They're both
area.
Arians. They're both professional as well.
One's a higher model than the other.
Well,
One's
single
24, one's a
stage.
25.
Yeah. I think one was single stage, and I think.
Okay.
Single
That was the
stage
difference.
costs more? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's
I
got,
don't
maybe
know.
you got a bigger engine, 208, I don't know,
208 cc, the other one doesn't say.
doesn't say.
I think either would be fine.
Must be better if it's $50 more.
Yeah. $50 more.
Absolutely.
Either one, I don't care. Leave it up to somebody else's discretion. The only snow blower I ever had, I ended up selling it. So once I had a kid that could run a shovel.
Yeah, I don't
She
have
actually did
one.
run a shovel.
Yeah.
It's the best part.
But this bid at 7331, 16 is including 2 snow blowers, so we need to take one off.
Mhm.
We could leave that up to Mark.
Yeah,
Fine with that.
So the $7,000 is coming from our $10,000 emergency fund.
That would.
So if we to have a boiler blow up or a well or something, we've only got less than $3,000 to, no?
No, we have another fund.
There's another fund, yeah.
Okay, all right, well,
Yeah, another fund that
I
has
mean, I know we
50,000
find the
in
money,
it.
but I just don't wanna go and
We have,
spend.
the emergency capital.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
This is something we put money into each year that's got a bit less,
Can't find any
It-
way
it
to
can be
spend our
smaller
money on this
projects.
stuff.
You think I would know after all the town meetings I've been to and everybody asks that same question, you know, I know the answer,
But you get to ask it this time.
but I know, yeah, that's right.
Well, I was planning
Well,
on
everybody wants to
most of the
know.
money from the budget, every line that we can from his budget, and then leave what we can in this fund.
Okay.
That was the goal.
Okay.
So I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we, get the equipment as quoted by Gary's power equipment, removing one of the snow blowers. At the, discretion of our custodian.
Is there a
So-
second?
I'll second
Is there further discussion? All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
that.
Tom?
Aye.
Jean? Aye. And an aye, the motion carries. Thank you very much. FERC letter to be signed.
Original.
Should have grabbed one.
You can just do yours. And Jeff's. Jeff gets to sign it twice.
Do you have a motion to approve and sign this letter? You have a copy in your packet.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries.
Should have Maddie sign when she was here.
That's what I said.
Okay,
I
Jeff,
got
we're
it.
gonna do two.
I gotta just dump it in.
It's been recorded.
You're very important, see? While he's doing that, do we want to, submit the letter to Danielle that was put in the packet?
Yeah, we didn't really talk about that, did we? That was right here.
Or no objection, there's no objection. You wanna sign this?
Do we have a motion?
Let me just say I wasn't in my right mind when I signed it.
Except that this is supposed to be on the town
Our
letterhead,
town letterhead.
so this isn't,
But if we approve that, then I'll come
we
over
can
and
approve it,
sign.
yeah.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, Michael?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
And that motion carries. Cyber locks.
Okay, so I had submitted to everybody a report of,
Stuart.
one from myself and one from Cindy of how many times it takes us to get into each of the doors. I think it was 46 times one day, and then to lock it, again, I think it was like 19, it was ridiculous. My concern is the lobby doors and the glass door heading into the clerk's lobby. And I would like to switch out those three. We have the old tumblers, and then we could leave the rest as they are. Spare expense, and then we would also not have to worry about keys coming and going with the committees. We'd still have the cyber key.
How much will it cost?
I had a quote from our locksmith.
Oh, it's just over here.
See, he quoted changing over all of the locks, including the ones downstairs we don't have keys for, and that was for $2,600. I only want just the three done. I think that
No.
would suffice.
Can our custodian do that?
I don't know. I don't know if
I
you
mean,
can.
I changed the locks at my house myself.
Those, I mean, we have the tumblers and everything. I don't know.
You gotta change the core.
We have the core, however, yeah, the only thing that I'm concerned about is then keys. You're gonna have to figure out, you're gonna need keys. I think it'd be easier just to have the locksmith come and do it, and he can make up the keys as well.
So you're saying three? Two lobby, clerk,
Mm-hmm. Do you want the library?
Could we please be included? Yes.
We could do that. We
How
could-
many keys will you need to make?
It would only just be for staff, and then I always have a few extra on hand in the event.
Like that's where we come in and get our stuff from, it's not open on the weekends.
Okay, yeah, that's right. So you would all be assigned keys as well.
Tom is just dying to say
Mm-mm,
something.
I'm a no vote. I'm a no vote. We've already discussed this once,
Mm-hmm.
so.
Okay,
Yeah.
board?
Yeah, there is that issue of now you kind of lose, you know, now you get this key and this bunch of keys and I know. It is very frustrating to try to get in here sometimes. It's frustrating for me when I have, like all of my staff did not have keys and I would depend on them using the one in the vault outside, which most of the time ended up not working. And if I wasn't in town, that was really difficult for me to unlock the building. I just don't know why they don't work better.
Well, I did also pull a report from when they were a month old, and you couldn't open them on the first try either.
No,
They weren't as
that's
bad,
right.
but they were never what they should have been, in my opinion. They should have opened after 1 or 2 tries, not 6, 8, 10.
So, I mean, what is I assume the company that sold them to us, have they been no help? And
I wrote an email and I got no response, and they want everyone to upgrade now. Of course, right? I
Yeah,
cleaned all the
probably.
contacts on all of the doors to see if there was any improvement, as they recommend,
Yeah.
and very minimal. I just don't think that it's,
yeah, why would you upgrade when something doesn't really work very well to begin with?
Yeah, because you can upgrade and then you can have a sliding card instead of a key. Good luck
Maybe
with
that
that.
ought to be provided for minimal extra charge, something that works.
Yeah.
I just remember when it was such a big deal when we switched to this at town meeting, because the townspeople want to know why we switch lock systems every so
Yeah.
often.
Our locksmith asked me how much longer we were gonna keep these locks, because everybody he knows who's had them, he's had to switch them out within the year. He said they did not last. It was getting bad. It was the gadget of the moment.
Yep. That's why you get the best locks. They've been around forever and they always will be.
But I mean, you know, we were trying to solve the problem of keys not getting returned, and then you have to go and replace locks because you don't know who has the key, and I mean, I don't know.
Every key in this building.
I don't know if you just don't, you hold money back from somebody until they return the key, or get a deposit from people. I don't know. There's got to be an answer.
Well, we have the signed agreement, so I would think that you'd be able to withhold that from their last paycheck.
Something like that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or tell them you're gonna sue them if they don't return it.
Yeah.
I mean, we just can't keep, sending keys out.
And that's what I thought, maybe just the limited for.
Gotta start kind of limited.
That's how everything starts.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
Yeah,
do we
so
have-
then
do we
that-
even have
Well, I
any-
need one.
Do we even have inventory for the current key system yet?
Yeah, there was an inventory for the,
I never signed anything. I just got handed a key from the person that
yeah, but
didn't own it
they
anymore.
know you got it.
Oh, yeah.
I gave it to you.
You're in the computer.
Then it wouldn't work, as I remember, forever and ever. Then we got it working, so. We couldn't get a key, we couldn't get it, tagged right in the system.
It's.
I think it was operator error as opposed to
Oh,
no, I was the
I-
operator.
Yes,
No,
I've never
that
had a
was a
problem with
kind
my
of-
key.
Let's figure this out all by ourselves.
It's a lot for
Yeah.
those keys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, like you, use this key daily, and, but the thought of jingling, 3 or 4 more keys on the ring besides this doesn't thrill me.
Well, they probably don't weigh as much as that thing. But
So,
if you gotta keep that in.
I mean, I've already added one for upstairs.
as opposed to piecemealing, and I know you got a quote for the replacement, okay? I'm going to move that we defer this until our budget discussions and add it in as a budget item to be planned for the next year, if that's the way the board deems to move forward with this.
Is there a second to that motion?
A second
Is there further discussion? All those in favor, Michael? Jeff? Tom?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
So I guess I wonder if there is, I know it'll cost a lot of money, probably some other alternative where you have something that's programmable, so they literally not having to
Can we
carry
add something into our ADT system?
a big ring of keys,
Or I guess it's
yeah,
not
you
ADT
can
or
have a
HSS system, sorry.
Combination punch, I mean, that's
Yeah.
50-year-old technology anyways. You just need to know what the number is, and I assume that you could probably change the code number.
Well, I have one in my
If you
house,
got it.
yeah, I can give everybody their own code and I know who comes and
Yeah.
goes, like the whole
True.
that's why we purchased this in the first place,
Yeah.
to know who's where.
And I had asked the locksmith about that.
Yeah, even like I said, talk to HSS, maybe it's something they can add into what we have.
Sure. Judy, Tim, yeah.
So the locksmith didn't like those systems?
It wasn't him, it was the people who had them installed. So
What the-
his customers got rid of the cyber keys.
No, but the numbered ones.
Oh, he didn't have any information.
I thought he did the fire department.
The fire department system's so old.
Well, we also.
He came and drilled the locks out and we couldn't get a key.
Yeah, I mean, we destroyed them first, and now there's a new thing on there. He didn't do that new,
No, I
Touchpad?
think Tim and the
Oh.
assistant chief finally figured it out, but
Oh.
that thing is an antique. Like they had
Oh,
to
alright.
find an old computer to hook up to it that would actually,
I just remember there being bills paid for the locksmith, and I thought there was something new put on down there.
that's because, yeah, he drilled all the locks out and then
Yeah.
changed it again,
Yeah.
after again.
Yeah,
Okay.
the keypad I think is a great idea.
Yeah,
That's
but yeah,
obviously
you're right, I
Yeah,
mean,
check with Tim.
Somebody
you
else.
could have multiple code numbers and, for
Everybody has their own
different
code.
people, yeah, you got your own code and then,
You don't have to supply batteries.
right,
I mean, I guess we have
Oh, you
cameras
would need
everywhere, we know
batteries.
who's coming and going
Yeah,
now
it
with
doesn't-
cameras, but
but not,
Right, but not individual.
no, right,
Worrying about your key dying, whether or not you're gonna be able to get in the building.
right.
I mean, every day this week I forgot my key was in my car, not my work truck, every time I stopped here.
Okay. We're meeting tomorrow night for budget. Will we do?
Question,
Sir,
because I don't remember. That first budget session isn't anything of presenting a budget at this point.
I presume they're gonna come in with some.
But the board hasn't done any determination as what,
Oh, our recommendations to the
Mm.
departments?
yeah. Okay,
We
Oh.
can do that after the first meetings.
yeah. I just want to be sure they all know that I want, I want line items backed up in writing on what they're spending it on. I don't want $50,000 and I don't want to pick on any department, salt. And then just have it $57,000 and tell me, because the price has gone up. I want to know how many tons we're using and what, I want to know within all of the line items, even if it's office supplies, what are you buying with it?
How many pencils?
Well, I don't want to count how many pencils or pens, but
Staples,
I
how
think
many
the
staples
department
are you gonna use?
And I
Yeah.
gave them the heads up, if they have increases in line items, they need to have a reasonable explanation.
even if they are level funded, I'd like to know what they're buying with it.
look at the bills.
I do, but I can never tell whose is whose, other than, I get the DPWs pretty easily,
It,
you know.
yeah,
Oh, do you have concerns with specific lines?
No, I'm not, I don't have any particular, people should just back up what they're requesting,
Mhm.
that's all.
Okay. That being said, I'll entertain a
Wham,
motion
wham,
to adjourn.
Wow, so moved.
Is
No,
there a
hard on
second?
that. Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Yes.
We are adjourned.